Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Mediocre Alaskan podcast. I've gotten a couple different starts to this here at podcast. I think it's kind of awkward when you don't have any sponsors. Most of the podcasts I listen to, there's some sort of sponsorship thing at the very beginning as the introduction. Other times there's a long introduction. So I try to get around the introductions because I skip forward through the introductions or the ads on some podcasts. So I've kind of gone, I don't know, sometimes I just start. Last episode I just started. I kind of like that. But I guess there needs to be some sort of introduction. I think as an English teacher, you think I'd appreciate the importance of a good introduction, but I just don't. I just want to get going. Like, what are you going to talk about? Most people stop reading or stop listening after a couple minutes, so you got to get right to it. So today is the 20th of May. Tomorrow is the 21st of May, which is the drawing for the Wyoming Fish and Game Department's tags for elk. So I put in for an elk tag in Wyoming, so I find out tomorrow if I draw it, which is going to be sweet. I got pretty good odds, I think, just by a non-resident standard, where you just assume that you're not going to draw anything unless you have a lot of points. But it's weird, man. You're getting into. I'm getting into this non-resident thing, and people talk about how we need to go to a point system in Alaska because you haven't drawn the mountain goat tag, and someone else has drawn it twice. But I really, after listening to some other podcasts and some people who live in states that have point systems, it's if you're talking about being fair, it is more fair to give everybody the same odds than it is to do the point system after a while, because you have this thing called point creep, and I've learned about that. So if not everybody who puts in for certain tags, after a while, you can't draw it with 1 point, you need it with 2 points, or some of those other, you need 8 or 9 points or so in order to draw a certain tag. If it's like mule deer, or if it's elk, or in this case it might be a mountain goat, if it was in Southeast Alaska. So you put in for these points, and some people, like in Wyoming, they will buy the point. You can buy a point and then not register for the actual hunt. So you're not even you're not applying for the tag. You're just buying the point, which means that 1 year, everybody with 11 points gets it, but the next year, it could be 12 because the person who had the 11, who's just been buying points, ends up cashing in. So he would have maybe gotten it before, but now not so much. I was listening to the Elk Talk podcast, which is Randy Newberg and Corey Jacobson, which is an awesome podcast. Those guys know their stuff. I've been watching a lot of Corey Jacobson's elk hunting archery videos on YouTube. He does the Elk 101 stuff, and it is great. And I think I'm setting myself up for failure because I've been ingesting as much elk hunting information as possible just to set myself up for the failure of not drawing the elk tag. But if I don't draw it, I'm still heading down there. And hopefully Abby will draw the tag, and so I can. It's going to be a lot of pressure on me trying to call in an elk for her. But I've been practicing around, been glassing out the road and using my cow call just to kind of get used to it, and then also cow calling here in my place and around the place. So I'm getting ready for it. I'm hopefully going to draw it. If I don't, I'm still going to head down there, and then maybe I can do the calling for Abby if she ends up drawing an elk hunt. But anyway, all that information is coming from the Corey Jacobson Elk 101 website and the Elk Talk podcast, which is an awesome podcast. But he and Randy Newberg were talking about point creep, and Corey drew a Utah tag with 11 points. This is what episode was it? This was the episode he was talking about elk or Utah and Nevada. It's like episode 45, I think, of the Elk Talk podcast. But Corey drew a tag in Utah with 11 points in 2020, and it had a 100% success rate. So if you had 11 points in Utah, 2012, you're going to draw this tag. Now, if you have 11 points, you have a 2.5% chance of drawing that same tag. In order to have a 100% chance of drawing that same tag that he drew in 2012, you need 18 points. So in 8 years, that's crept up 7 points. And so once you go to that point system, you're locked into that. You are locked into that point creep, people buying points from all over. You're going to have locals from it's going to be crazy. It would be crazy. So if you're interested in fairness, the way Alaska does it, everyone has the same percentage chance. That's the most fair. If you're looking for residential preferential treatment, then you might be looking at the point system. Which, just be honest about it. Just like, hey man, I am of the mindset that I believe as a resident I should have a much better opportunity than a non-resident. So going to a point system would be, I don't know. So I bought one elk point last year, and I bought one mule deer point last year. So I have 1 point of each. So that's very pathetic. For some reason, I did not put in for an antelope. It's like $14 to buy the antelope point, which I did not do. And to try to draw a buck antelope, you need at least 1 point. And I don't have 1 point. I do not have 1 point. So I should have bought that point, because now if you start getting some creep area in the area that the Laramie area that's near or that's close to Laramie, where I'm going to be staying and where Abby is and where we're going to hunt, you need that point to be able to get in on stuff. And so, if the local area that I could have drawn one maybe this year, if I had 1 point, now that I don't, what if it's going to be 2 points? If that starts creeping up, I'm always like 1 behind. I don't know. Thing too about the non-resident stuff is the places that you're putting in for. The reason why you have a good drawing odds is because the hunting isn't very good, or there's not a lot of public access. Public access isn't something that we really think about or talk a lot about here in Alaska, because it's all public land. Like, you can just go wherever. The only places that you're looking at permissions are talking to the native corporations that own the native land. I've never experienced much about that, but I know they tend to be, depends on where it is. Some don't tend to care officially or unofficially. I think people just kind of do it, and I don't know if they mind. I know the Klawock outside of Klawock, we used to just go to the river, growing up, but now they had just so many non-locals showing up at the river. It was crazy. I remember riding my bike to that river growing up, and there were spots on the river where there wasn't a trail to, and so we thought that we were the only people who know about this stretch, and we obviously weren't. But now the whole thing is just tracked down. They've had some really good returns of silvers, and then local businesses have opened up toward the charter industry and then the river fishing industry, and so you just have the vans of people are showing up, and so you access that river by going across Klawock property. And so now they're like, all right, well, we're going to make it a permit thing. You can fish it, but you have to buy a permit. I think it's $50 or something like that. So
after years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
And that's fine. That's good. A way to bring in revenue to make things better for the city, or for Coahuila. And we were essentially trespassing growing up, going across land that wasn't ours to get there to the river to fish. So I have no problem at all with them doing that. But in some places down where I hunted Wyoming last year, there were a couple private ranches that allow um, an application process so that you can get a permit to hunt their private land, which is cool. They just ask that you don't actually shoot their cows, but you can shoot some antelope. That's where I was hunting antelope, and it was trying to hunt a doe antelope was crazy because it was during rifle season, so everything was just crazy, just running around. They were spooked. People just driving kind of up and down the roads, and you kind of see one, and then people would just kind of get out and try to shoot it. But at that point, the antelope had been pushed back, and so I did a lot of hiking around. But you don't have anything to hide behind. There's a little bit of texture in the terrain, and so if you do see some, if there happens to be a little bit of a dip, you can kind of get down and then guess and hopefully get around and rise up to a point where you can get a shot. But even as you're creeping towards it, if you lay down to take the shot, there's going to be like a little bit of a mound or something in between. So having a bipod would have been huge, or those shooting sticks that I used to make fun of people for having. That's kind of what you have to do if you're rifle hunting there. Buddy of mine, Jaden Bales, who's been on the podcast a couple times, said that it's much easier to hunt antelope archery in September than it is rifle. And I thought, dude, what? Because I'm thinking long shots with antelope. I'm thinking 200, 300-yard shots. I did sneak close enough, got to about 100 yards, but I didn't have enough of the body exposed. And then when the antelope stood up, it went in the opposite direction. That was the doe tag too. It wasn't a buck. But he says it's easier just because they're not as spooked and rattled, and so hunting with archery, that'd be crazy. You have nothing to hide behind again. You're not calling them in. Not that I haven't heard or seen of anybody who's calling in antelope, but that'd be sweet. Antelope hunting with a bow, but I don't have a point, so that's probably not going to happen. So everything is banking right now on this reduced. They have this thing called a reduced price elk tag. I'm on the Wyoming Department of Fish and Game, looking up something that you probably don't care about, but it's just to give a little idea about what other things are, how things are out there. Non-drawing odds. I'm not going to tell you what area it was, but you have these reduced cow and calf, and the price is less. It's like $308, I think, is what it cost. Your full. Actually, let's just go to the prices. Let's go to license prices. Non-resident full price elk, $707. Is that right? I thought it was like $800. The reduced cow calf price is $303. So I put in for that. The deadline was January 15th, something like that. Put in for that. So they've been holding my money for the last couple months, which apparently they do not have it in an account that draws interest, which I find interesting. What a great way to raise a little bit more money and maybe keep tags lower if they hold on to your application fee for 4 months, 5 months. You can earn some interest off that, but it's in a non-growth fund. I'd be totally fine with that. People would say, well, the Wyoming Department of Fish and Game is making money off my money, and that's nonsense. Well, dude, man, that might be a way to keep prices low. Like I wouldn't be necessarily bad with that. Cow calf tag $303, full price $707. I don't know if I will ever be able to draw a bull elk. That'd be sweet. Full price elk tag for a resident is $62. Yeah, that's great. That is awesome. Let's see. Do I want to know who else who listening to this is going to be hunting in Wyoming? I don't know. But in this area, the Type 1 non-resident preference point limit, I would have to have, I'm not going to, if it's 13, I would need 13 points to draw a bull elk tag in this area. 13 for a bull elk in this area. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. I am that far behind. And so by the time I get to 13 points, if I buy 1 point per year, that's 13 years. But at that point, the thing could have crept to 20. So there's a good chance that I will never be able to draw a bull elk tag in that area. Maybe even ever in the ever. Yeah. If you have 10 points, 0% chance. 0% chance of drawing it. Ah, man. That's so disheartening. Those people who already have, like the kid who's 18 and has 17 points, like whose dad started buying points for the kid, like when they were an embryo. They have that inside track, man. It's never gonna happen. Oh man, I got to figure out a way that I can try and draw a bull elk tag. I drew the elk tag on Edelin Island in southeast here before I really knew anything about anything, especially hunting wise or hunting elk wise. So I burned the heck out of that tag. But great experience, fun, but it's just a camp out. So that's the plan. Cow elk is hopefully what I'm drawing tomorrow. Hopefully get that tag and then go down there this June. Be down there for a couple weeks, do some scouting in the area, try to find them, pattern them, whatever I need to do. Which that's going to be a huge advantage to be able to be down there, camp, kind of see what's going on. Because if they're in their summer range, which they should be by the time I leave in July, then coming back in September for the archery, that's at least have a chance to do this rather than showing up a day before I have to hunt or showing up right when our season's already started, not knowing the terrain. So yeah, there it is. New experiences. I used to be one of those guys who, why would I need anything else? Just stay here, run the program, run the Alaska program, deer and bear and fish, and just do that. But man, there's so much to experience out there, and I don't. Spending money on traveling down there or traveling this elk tag, it's absolutely worth it, those experiences. I am so excited to try this, see some new territories and new ground, and I'm stoked. I'm absolutely stoked to get up there, do this, check it out. So we're gonna call that episode 142, 143, 144. I think it's 144. Let's see, 143. It's 143. This is probably one of those instances that proves or provides evidence as to why I don't have sponsorships, because I don't really know what's going on. But, episode 143. Make sure you check out the mediocrealaskan.com, and we will talk to you next time. Hopefully, I have some good news next week. And if not, then, well, get over it.